Hey Internet, this is Gunter with MiniMishaps Games, and today I'm going to be giving you even more uses for liquid plastic. Alright, so in this video I am going to be repairing the base on the couple of large minis. I'm going to be basing the displacer piece, which is kind of funny. I've got a llama that needs a base. I have a miniature Tadeo Salazar, and then we've got a broken piece of terrain from the dollar store that's basically in halves, and then another large mini here. I have the first part of my gluing for the Frostgrave lizard folk that I got, so I'm pouring a base around the legs there, and then I'll be repairing the arm on Hero Forge Dragonkin. So this is Alumilite 2-part plastic, and you find it in the craft store in the modeling section for planes and tanks and cars and all those models. But and it can be used for mold casting. It can be used for adhesive as a glue. You can basically make any kind of shape you want out of it. And the reason that it's so easy to use is that the parts that you use are equal. So all you need is a couple of clear plastic cups, and you can tell if you have enough of one side or the other. And it has a little bit of give, so I actually get down to where I'm making really small batches for just a couple of small projects like this, and a little bit goes a ton. If you're mold casting, you use it up faster obviously than just repairing minis, but we're going to be going through a couple of different tricks and options for ways that you can use it. So pour the two parts together, and then the thing that you want to be careful of is that you stir it well and evenly. So you don't want to agitate too many bubbles into it, because they'll turn into bubbles in your plastic unless you're fortunate enough to have a vacuum pump or something like that. I do not, so I try to pour everything really gentle so that there isn't any of that in the resin when I'm done pouring the plastic. So I use a regular craft stick, popsicle stick, to stir these, and there are dyes that you can use with the thermoset plastic, and in a future video I'll be making some little potions with these vials I got back in our Dollar Crawl video. And but you have to have plastic dye. It won't work with paints or washes. You'll end up getting a chemical reaction from, well, the paints won't do anything. They just will leave pockets of unset paint inside the plastic. The inks and things actually react with the plastic and cause it to bubble. And so you actually get this. Now you can do it intentionally, and I'll do that maybe in the third installment, the next installment, since I'm just thinking of it now. But you can cut those bubbles away, and it turns into a really cool lunar alien landscape, craterous rock formation, because the bubbles harden in the shape of the plastic. The plastic around the bubbles hardens, and then you can, or you can leave it as the bubbles, and then it can be an alien nest or different things like that. So I'll make a note and put that in a future video. That'll probably be one that gets its own video just for the chemistry of doing that on purpose. But alright, so we're stirring the plastic, and this kind of 2-part plastic works with any mold rubber. So if you want to make bases, or you want to make terrain pieces or walls, you can just copy things you already have. And the And yeah, and the plastic it's nice here we have a couple of pieces that are broken that came from a 3D printer, and 3D printing pieces generally is pretty strong in every angle except for one, and that's the grain of the layers of the 3D print. But the nice thing about this plastic starting as a liquid is that it doesn't have anything like a grain, and so it's really good for reinforcing pieces that do have breakpoints like that, because those breakpoints are going to be in the 3D prints whether or not they have the correct supports, just because of the nature of the plastic coming down in layers. Liquid resin printers do better. And you can use on any 3D plastic, you can use, watered down acetone to smooth out those edges and things. So for these flying miniatures that you're seeing here, essentially what I'm going to be doing is, it doesn't really work to just glue a flying post onto a flat base. You really need so in this case for these two, the flying parts have dropped and they have broken off inside the base, and I don't have a drill or anything like that to get them out. So what I'm going to be doing instead is I have run the plastic fly post through a pop bottle cap, which I'm going to be then adding some clay or plastic as well as paint and primer to get those to be like rock formations or the top of a tower or some piece of terrain that will become their base. Regular basing is easy. You want to watch out because the plastic won't displace all the way unless you press the miniature down against the base. So you want to make sure that two-part plastic liquid is pressed out the sides, because that will also make a seal around the edges of your thing that you're basing. So that it goes for this Displacer Beast and Tadeo Salazar and the Llama, because if you don't press that out, then they'll be tilted. They won't be straight up and down on the base. And in the case of Tadeo, his miniature was actually not straight, so I used a tiny piece of two-sided tape to level him, and then I filled in around that tape with the plastic. What you see me here now with the clamp is the Hero Forge, and so essentially beforehand I set up the clamp so that it would hold his sword arm that broke off and the miniature in a close proximity, so that those shapes are already set up. So you want to set up those things before you mix the resin, because otherwise you'll be scrambling or spilling. And don't get this on your hands, don't get this in your eyes or on your face, don't get this on your clothes, because plastic, when it's hard plastic, doesn't wash out of clothes. So make sure you make those good safety choices as well when you're using this. And then, just like every video that I do where I'm using the plastic, I have a couple of molds on hand so that I can make sure to use up the excess, which is what I'm doing here. I'm pouring that into a mold for a wall section. And having a couple of bigger molds where it doesn't matter what the color is, I'm going to probably prime and paint the wall later, is good. Kind of like you would for baking grease in a jar. You can just, any leftover plastic can just be poured in there, and then when it's full, you pop it out and you've got a multicolored wall. So this beehive is from the dollar store, and it is turning out to be a little trickier. These cheap plaster almost pieces, so it's either a cheap plastic, but the plastic itself is porous, so when this broke you could actually see bubbles in it. So that either means they have their temperature set so that they can do speed and quantity over quality. But in this case it works out, because this is actually a beehive coming up out of the ground on a stick, and the plastic, when it does set up, I had to use enough of it, and I had to hold it, and I had to do a bunch of different aspects because it was slipping off the plastic. So I ended up having to, as you can see me struggling here to hold it, I ended up having to hold it long enough for that plastic to start setting up, and it takes about 3 minutes to start setting up, and about 6 or 7 minutes to be comfortable walking away from it and leaving it stuck. The other wonderful thing about this Alumilite plastic is as it sets, it goes from clear to white or cream colored. So you know exactly when the parts are starting to set, because everything starts turning white or cream, and that sort of starts your timer for your 30 minutes. So it's about 7 minutes for it to start turning white, and so it ends up, this version, they have several different versions, ends up being about 40 minutes to be comfortable priming and painting and engaging with that plastic. Now, if you don't have an exact measure, if you have too much of the setting agent or too much of the plastic base, on one hand, if you have one too high, it'll be oily and won't set up right, and it'll be squishy and rubbery and malleable. And then on the other side, it'll be chalky and brittle and won't keep its shape very readily, and it'll chip and things like that. So now there you go. We've come back after it's all set up, and let's break these things out of their clamps and molds and holding parts. You can see there for the beehive, I had to use a heavy duty weighted clamp to keep it in its shape. But there is the Hero Forge Dragonkin. His arm is good as new. Hold him up here. Yep. So this one actually got painted up in another video, so you can go check that out. And if you're enjoying doing the plastic along with me, then please subscribe and hit the bell. You can support us on Patreon and buy us a coffee. So there's that Hero Forge miniature. So you can see that since it's a liquid plastic, it makes a thin cast around each of the two broken parts. But when that's painted up, you can't actually tell. It's hardly any thickness added. And there you saw me shake the llama. It's very much adhered to the base. It's a permanent structure now. So that'll get painted up in maybe a future video as well. And this is the Displacer Beast. So this and the Hero Forge and Tadeo Salazar, these three were miniatures that I agreed to paint for the D&D group I'm part of. And there's Tadeo. Yep, Tadeo's already got his painting video. As you can see, he's painted already. You can check that out as well. And then for the lizard folk, I got this a head to it here, but I ended up having to go back and scrape off some of those mold lines. And you can watch that. I've made a whole big long video for that. Alright, and so there you can see I poured the base around the legs, so it'll be ready for that 1-inch standard diameter D&D gameplay. And you can just tear away the excess there, and you got your circular base. Next up, we have got our beehive in the large center clamp. And I actually like this because it looks like the plastic is honey running out of the bottom of the beehive, which is kind of a fun, happy accident anytime that you end up with that. So there you go. And so it's just got honey running out of the bottom. So there's our plains traveling demon there. And the nice thing about these bottle caps is you create a seal around the outside like this, and then if you really want it to be permanent and heavy duty, you can pour the next time liquid plastic into the top along the fly post, and it will pour down in there and solidify up all that much more. And there is our extra plastic that I have mold cast it into the wall section there, and I'll hold that up. Same thing, anything that sticks out over the edges of a mold is going to be pretty easy to tear or break or cut away. And so you can see that it's got the little shapes of rocks and stuff in there. So, but this has been our second liquid plastic video. So thank you so much for watching, for being with us, and for making it to the end of the video. And we'll start putting together that next one. If you guys like this, let us know in the comments. And that next one will definitely at least include the making of the lunar landscape for the chemical reactions. So maybe we'll make that third video things that you can combine with the plastic, whereas these first two videos were making things, and now this one repairing things, and the next one we can have be mixing things. So we'll look forward to seeing you guys next time in the next video, and have a good one. Thanks, Internet.